Coach Garner here from hockeytraining.com, and in this video, I want to talk to you about what I call the XLR8 Performance Session. The XLR8 Performance Session is an in-season specific way at which you can approach your conditioning as well as knock off a lot of other important components of hockey-specific training towards the ankles, the hips, the speed, and even your technique out in the ice, all while getting more conditioned so that you stay fresh all in season long. Now, when it comes to the in-season, as we've discussed many times in the past, the off-season is all about physical development, whereas the in-season is about physical expression. Because we need to express our maximum performance on game day each and every single week, we have to be 100% recovered each and every single week, and we need to narrow down what's known as the specificity of our training throughout certain intervals of our weekly training schedule. Now, when you look at an in-season program, or any program for that matter, it should fit together like a puzzle piece. Because hockey players are multidisciplinary athletes. You can't just focus on strength like a powerlifter. That's the only thing they need to focus on. You can't focus on just aerobic conditioning like a marathon runner, because that's the only thing they need to focus on. Hockey players, they need to be fast, agile, strong, mobile, stable, coordinated. They need to have a high level of technique. They need to be explosive. They need to ensure that they have all of the different types of speeds, such as starting speed, acceleration, and top speed. This means energy system management across the board for their programming. You name it, hockey players need it. So you're going to begin your program design with like 10 different puzzle pieces, and it's your job as the coach or as the intelligent hockey player to make sure these pieces all fit in nicely so that you have a complete approach to your hockey training program design. I've previously talked about what I call the bulletproof armor circuit. The bulletproof armor circuit is phenomenal for unlocking movement quality and injury resilience throughout the in-season. So we've knocked those two things down. With this particular session, we are going to be going through hockey-specific conditioning as well as hockey-specific movement patterns that are going to benefit you out in the ice. So why don't we just get into the overall structure of the workout? What you're going to be doing once per week, all in season long, is an XLR8 Performance Session, which is 4 supersets, 1 for the ankle, 1 for the hips, 1 for speed development, and 1 for technique development. You want to knock all 4 of those down because even somebody with a basic understanding of sports biomechanics gets right away that, ankles, hips, speed development, and hockey-specific technique, this is as narrow as training specificity gets. When you are training generally, you are improving general qualities that will improve all level up athletics. Functional strength, conditioning, mobility, stability, balance. A lot of these things can be quite general and will apply to athletes in a very general sense. But as you narrow the specificity of your exercise selection and the frequency and intensity at which you utilize this exercise selection, that's when you can start to not just generally train to be an excellent athlete, but specifically train to be an excellent hockey player. In the bulletproof armor circuit, which I also want you performing once per week, I mentioned that you were going to be working on ankle mobility as well as hip mobility in that circuit. So that was one puzzle piece. Let's get the next puzzle piece to work on ankle stability as well as hip stability. So when you're designing your XLR8 Performance Sessions, your first 2 supersets are ankle stability and hip stability. For stability, I like quick feet movements. Let's get bang for the buck in here because our quick feet movements are going to help our starting speed and edge work out in the ice, but it's going to create a nice balancing effect because your ankle mobility, your ability to get deep on those inside and outside edges, it doesn't mean a whole lot unless you are stable on those deep inside and outside edges. Because if you're going to get deep on an edge, you still want to be able to propel as solid as possible each and every single time you take a stride. But if you're just mobile, well, then you kind of got those wobbly ankles, right? But if you're mobile and stable, That's powerful. That's that multidisciplinary hockey athlete prowess that we need. So I like quick feet drills for ankle stability because we're training that ankle stability and we're doing it in a way in which that's also going to represent itself in speed out in the ice. Bang for the buck, being the most efficient with our training in the time that we have is key for the in-season because the schedule is busy enough. So the more boxes we can check per session, the better. Quick feet drills, the McDavid crossover shuffle, as well as the two-step hurdle, 15 seconds per unit of exercise. This is a great way in which to ensure you are making sure you're hitting those ankles at enough intensity to get stability. And these are just two examples. There are a couple of my favorite examples because you're getting the inside as well as the outside with these movement patterns. Both of them, by the way, for a more well-rounded effect. But ankle stability is key for unit number 1. Unit number 2, we're working on hip stability. Hip stability, I like to use one hinging and one squatting pattern. Hinging being your T stand, really emphasizing hip stability on one leg. One of the prime components of biomechanical assessment in exercise is locomotion. Locomotion being your ability to move around, right? Anytime you move around, you are always on one leg. T-stands are a great way to train hip stability within locomotion. Archer squat keeps both feet on the ground at the same time and squats the bum down to a bottom position to get a lot of range of motion out of the hips. It is the regression to a movement you've probably seen me use a lot before, which is the Cossack squat. So we are emphasizing ankle stability and hip stability to round out our program design, and you are getting infinite benefits here from edge work. Honestly, I keep these videos nice and tight so that you get the tip of the iceberg and you don't have to deal with all the stuff that's underwater. Ankle stability and hip stability is something I could literally, not trying to exaggerate for sake of dramatic here, I could literally talk about this for hours. So you are checking a ton of boxes between these two. Hip stability, just like I said, it doesn't matter much if you get deep on the inside-outside edges with your ankles. Hip is the same thing. Your mohawk turn doesn't mean a whole lot if you're going to fall over every time you do it. That stride frequency and stride length is not going to be maximized if you don't have stable hips. Mobility is only one side of the equation. We need stability as a prime component to ensure that you're always maximizing your efforts out in the ice. Next superset here, our third unit of the XLR8 Performance Session is speed development. Now, speed development, this can be programmed specific to the athlete. So if an athlete has a problem with their stride length, I'd be a lot more prone to utilizing lateral movement within this section. If an athlete has problem with starting speed and acceleration, we would want to program a lot more vertical training within this unit. Or if an athlete has problem with agility and top speed, I'd be a lot more prone to utilizing horizontal movement patterns within this unit of the section. But for the purpose of this video, I wanted to keep things nice and general. Single leg hip thrust, great for horizontal power output. I've even done an actual article on this comparing the biomechanical forces of forward skating as well as single leg hip thrust. You'd be amazed at what your ground reaction forces are, the hip extension, the eccentric and concentric action of the hamstring during the movement, exactly replicating how you're taking a stride and return stride out in the ice. There's many, many, many similarities. So single leg hip thrust, although horizontally dominant, has a lot of benefit towards hockey athletes' speed development out in the ice. And then side plank with leg raise. Side plank with leg raise. Core development, which I don't think I need to explain to you how important the core is for maximizing your speed out in the ice. But with that leg raise, when you're on a side plank with leg raise, there is an unbelievable strength and conditioning effect happening within the glute medius. The glute medius is responsible for hip abduction, which means stride length. If you don't have a very strong glute medius, let alone a very conditioned glute medius, strength is what's going to allow that stride length to maximize itself. But the conditioning of that glute medius is going to allow your legs to feel a lot fresher when you've been pumping as hard as possible all shift long or all game long. So you're getting a speed and conditioning effect out of an exercise that doesn't even look like skating. So when you are creating this kind of a thing, and understanding of biomechanics is very key, because you don't want to run into overuse injuries. And a lot of hockey players actually do that. They misrepresent specificity. Training specificity, although narrow for hockey performance, doesn't always have to look like hockey performance. Single leg hip thrust, side plank with leg raise, both excellent hockey speed exercises. They look nothing like skating out on the ice, but I am prone to utilizing these types of movement patterns, especially in season, to reduce repetitive stress and inflammation in the joints. If I was going to have you do a bunch of skater bounds and a bunch of explosive lateral work, or get on a skating treadmill or whatever it's going to be, you're already involved in a lot of practices, you're involved in a lot of games, and then if I continue to expose you to the exact same coordination patterns in your dryland training, inevitably you're gonna get some hip pain, you might get some knee pain, and you are going to regress rather than progress. So what I wanna do is sit back, assess the biomechanics of hockey, and say, hey, how can we accomplish the same thing, but in a low impact way, with different movement patterns, so that I don't inflame my joints, I don't get repetitive stress injuries, but I still get all the benefits of doing those higher impact crazy stuff. That's what the superset's all about, okay? I want you to find functional ways in which you can approach speed without doing actual skating replication patterns itself. 5 per side on that single leg hip thrust, emphasizing explosion as well as side plank with leg raise. 15 seconds doesn't sound like a lot. I promise you, your glute medius is going to be screaming after that. We would progress it. 15 seconds, 20, 25, 30 across a 4-week training phase. Last but not least, you are going to be doing in unit 4 here, a technique-based movement pattern. I did a video on this a few videos back. It's fatigued motor control. That is something where if you're not familiar with it, get familiar with it, all right? It's a way in which you can actually condition your neurological skill movement patterns. If you are exhausted, one of the best ways in which to remain technically proficient is to exhaust yourself first and then focus on technique-based movements. Why? Because if you've been going hard for 60 seconds out in the ice nonstop and you haven't conditioned your skill, your stick handling is gonna get real sloppy. You don't feel technically sound, so you're gonna throw a suicide pass. You're not gonna be patient with the puck. You're just gonna want to get rid of it. Whereas if somebody has conditioned their skill, which is different than conditioning your muscle, by the way. One's muscular, one's neural. When you have conditioned your skill, even though I'm breathing, I'm able to actually control my heart rate. I'm still puck handling very efficiently. If I do take a stride, it's still going to be the appropriate angles and joints and coordination patterns. If I'm crossing over, if I'm opening up, if I'm puck handling, if I'm passing, these things can all be conditioned. So I like to do technique-based stuff after all of the muscle-based stuff, so I can train you to be patient with the puck. I can train you to have good edge work even when you're exhausted. I can train you to control your heart rate, because even though we're exhausted, now we're emphasizing on technique patterns. This is all stuff that your opponents are not doing. I promise you. People think conditioning is running up and down a hill. You'll get tired, but the question is, do we get tired? Or should we be doing something to become a better hockey player? Which one do you want? I know which one you want. We want a very, very specific workout that's going to condition everything that we're going to actually see out on the ice. Sometimes you'll see a lot of people do suicide runs and don't get tired, get better. That should be your prime focus when training. Just because you're getting tired doesn't mean you're going to become a better hockey player. That's the difference between exercise and training. Exercise is burning calories. Training means you're becoming a better hockey player. So here, 10 and 2 hip openers, after you've already smashed the ankles, the hips, and your speed exercises, now we're doing hip openers to replicate the movement patterns for mohawk turns out in the ice. This is a mobility drill, sure, but it's also fatigued motor control training to condition your neurological movement patterns. And we're also getting muscle memory in. because if you can open up the hips during a workout like this, opening up the hips after a 60-second hockey shift is going to be like nothing to you. You want to train hard so that battle is easy. That's what we're doing with this 10 and 2 hip opener, and then a skater lunge. Skater lunge, a lot of people don't know how tightly that correlates to crossovers out in the ice. Skater lunges are great. So again, this could be tailored more specifically to you. If you struggle with mohawk turns, great. If you struggle with crossovers or linear crossover skating, then skater lunge can be great, but this can be tailored to you, okay? Here's where everything starts tying in together, because you might be thinking, hey, Dan, XLR8 Performance, you said it was conditioning. I just see 4 supersets here. What's going on? Well, I did a video a while back on something called the cardio acceleration training model. Cardio acceleration training is a beautiful tool that you can incorporate during the in season to get equal conditioning effect out of your training in less time. Again, when I'm thinking in-season programming, I'm thinking, how can I check as many boxes as possible within 30 to 45 minutes? Because people are busy enough with work, with school, with extracurricular activities, with practices, with games, with travel, with tournament, you name it. Scheduling in the in-season is way different than scheduling in the off-season. So I want to cram as much bang for the buck as possible within a small unit of time. And there was a study, I won't go over the whole thing again because you can watch it in a video I did a few videos back. There was a study in 2008. It was in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning, and it was a landmark study, and it was on the cardio acceleration method, where group 1 did 60 seconds of resistance training, and then 30 seconds of 60 minutes of resistance training, and then 30 minutes of cardio training. And then group 2 did 30 minutes of cardio training inside their 60-minute resistance training window. So one group did 60 minutes of resistance training, 30 minutes of cardio. The second group, instead of doing traditional rest periods, they did aerobic movements during their rest periods and their resistance training so that they got their full 30 minutes of cardio in during the 60 minutes that they were doing resistance training. The results at the end of the study, well, doing cardio during your rest periods didn't impact strength development, didn't impact muscle mass gains, and actually improved interset recovery, believe it or not. They were recovering more by doing something during their rest periods in comparison to doing nothing at all. It's hypothesized that they became more conditioned, so therefore they enhanced their natural work capacity and their ability to recover faster than ever. So when I think about the cardio acceleration model, I think, holy cow. So hang on. This is a way in which I can functionally train for hockey and get my conditioning in way less time without sacrificing any benefits. Not only that, I also have a working knowledge of fatigue motor control. So I can utilize this cardio acceleration model to either A, burn a lot more fat during the in-season and improve my conditioning, or B, use sport-specific movements such as puck handling during my rest periods to get even more fatigue motor control conditioning during my traditional, what would have already been 60 seconds of normal hockey workouts. This is great. I mean, I'm checking so many boxes at the same time, I don't even know what to do with myself, right? And that's where XLR8 Performance came. I called it XLR8, number 1, because it sounds cool. And that's what's most important, right? Number 2, because XLR8 represents cardio acceleration, as it was notated within the scientific literature, but also 8, because 8 exercises, it is a great structure for me to do ankle, hip, speed, and technique-based training all within the same session. So this is what I want you to do. And I like to program it once per week because I find that's all hockey players need. They're getting a lot of conditioning from their practice. They're getting a lot of conditioning from their games. And in my explosive strength training sessions, which I'll discuss in a future video, that's where you're getting your anaerobic conditioning. Here, we are getting our aerobic conditioning. And a cool little trick for you is if you've got really heavy legs out in the ice, it's an indication that you need to work on your anaerobic conditioning. But if you're having trouble catching your breath in between shifts, it's a great indication that you need to work on your aerobic conditioning. Hockey players need anaerobic and aerobic for the puzzle pieces to fit together and you to have the best season of your life. So to use the cardio acceleration model correctly, a lot of research goes behind it, but I love it because the application is simple. Follow this template that I have already pre-built for you, and then 60 seconds of cardio acceleration for all rest periods. Got it? So I would perform the McDavid shuffle for 15 seconds. No rest, because it's a superset. And then I do 2-step hurdles for 15 seconds. Then my 60 seconds rest, which I would have traditionally put in here before I restart the superset again, the 60-second rest period is cardio acceleration training. So choose any low intensity movement pattern to perform during this rest period so that you can do your conditioning while you're doing your functional hockey training at the exact same time, okay? Another example, let's just go and do it again because I really want you guys to get this. This is real important, big stuff for you. T-stands, 5 reps per leg. Immediately into archer squats, 5 reps per leg. We're going to rest 60 seconds, but we're doing low intensity aerobic movement patterns during this 60 seconds. Once that 60 seconds is up, you're right back to T-stands, 5 per leg, right back to archer squats, 5 per leg. 60 seconds of aerobic training, and then since 3 rounds, right? Another 5 reps per leg in the T-stand, another 5 reps per leg in the archer squat. 60 seconds of aerobic training, we're on to the next superset, okay? So every single rest period for these supersets, we're doing 60 seconds of cardio acceleration training. Cardio acceleration training, it's aerobic, okay? You're missing the point if you're going all out. I want you to work at about a 5 out of 10 intensity. So you're moving, but you're not blasting it, okay? A lot of athletes, they have the internal intelligence to know what 50% of their max intensity is. And if you hit that zone, you're in the aerobic zone, and that's absolutely perfect. What can you choose to do these movement patterns? It is up to you, and I actually do leave it up to my athletes. And a cool kind of easy rule to follow is if you want more fat loss out of this workout, then choose exercises to do during your rest period. So exercises could be a burpee. It could be mountain climbers. It could be jumping jacks. It could be running on the spot. It could be seal jacks. It could be half jacks, right? Think about any kind of typical in one place aerobic movement pattern. You're going to get great work capacity benefits, and you're going to get a lot of fat loss because you're introducing a lot of total body movement. So if you want more fat loss, go the exercise-based route. But if you want more skill-based conditioning, then do skill stuff during your rest periods. Like this workout, if you haven't noticed, it's body weight only. So you can do this at home. So you could do T-stands, 5 per leg, archer squat, 5 per leg, and then start doing figure eights with the puck during your 60-second rest period. And then back to T-stand, back to archer squat. And now we're doing wide, we're doing short and wide. You can pick as many stick handling drills as you want to perform. You could shoot in between these. You could do anything you want, okay? So if you're someone who wants more fat loss out of it, pick exercises. But if you're somebody who wants more skill development out of it, then choose hockey skills to perform during your rest period. And if you're somebody who says, hey man, I kind of want both, we're on the same page, all right? You could do exercise during your rest period, skill during your rest period. Exercise during your rest period, skill during your rest period. Now you've alternated them and got a 50-50 effect on both, all right? Beautiful workout design. We're starting to piece together all the puzzle pieces here. And training, this is as specific as hockey training gets. Ankles, hips, speed development, technique, fatigue, motor control, aerobic conditioning, hockey-specific movement patterns. It goes on forever. This is something I want you to perform once per week during the in-season and switch it up every single phase, all right? Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this and you learned something new, you think it's pretty cool stuff, it means a lot to me. If you could do me a huge favor, hit the like button and also subscribe to this channel. I'm really trying to grow the Hockey Science Unleashed network here and build a cool community of like-minded hockey people who are ready to rock and roll on all this hockey science stuff, all right? And let me know in the comment section what videos you want to see next. Let's go.